Okay. Hello, everyone. Hey, guys. Okay, let me do the, start with a bounty one. Johnny Eustace. However, everyone's been having a good weekend. Reddit Online is decent. It's fun with friends. It's a game that you really want to play with friends. It's not a game you want to play solo. Hey, Pro, I'm using phone data. The power's out. Oh, thank you, Madism, for the super chat. Why's the power out? What happened? Thank you for the super chat. Wait, Vitus, you said something? I didn't get to see your message. What did you say? Hey, Isaiah. Well, this was a really easy, quick bounty. Okay. Hit that like button and subscribe. Thank you, Menace. I apologize for that, Vitus. I did not get a chance to read it, but I'll read it because I'm gonna be streaming on Wednesday again. I'll read it on I'll read it and tell you what I think of it on Wednesday. It was like, tell me what it was called again, just one more time. Hey, Pro in chat, quick thoughts on the new PC update. Oh, I don't play on PC, but I'm happy that, you know, PC players got the same experience console players now, Joker.
You gonna pay for this?
I'll wait actually a little bit before I deliver him. Hey, April. Loving the cowboy outfit. Thank you, Joker.
Oh
but tell me what it's called again, Vitus, and I'll tell you what I think next time. On the Wednesday stream.
You gonna pay for this?
Do you keep track of how many calories you do day, Pro? No, not at all.
Well, shit.
I could Vitus, and let me save this also to yeah. So I'm gonna have a
You gonna pay for this?
I will have the video I'll have that video coming up this week on like reacting to the retail stories. Oh, thank you, Bullet full of venom. Can you add my friend Sniper Guy 93?
Come on.
Sniper Guy 93. I might not have me see. Yeah, I don't have enough room right now. I'll add your friend. I'll add your friend Bullet. I promise I'll add him a little bit later. But I just have to see just who I have to remove from my friends list. That's why I can't usually add people during streams, because my friends list is full. But I only delete people when they've been, you know, offline for like more than a year. So I'm just gonna have to look through my list and... Dang, I was about to finish the story for Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, the original. The power is out. Wait, what happened? Is it a storm? Thank you, Matism. Hello, Pro. Someone who went to Vegas a month before you. I stayed at the Flamingo, and my god, I'm so glad my parents don't know of Oyo. Yeah, there's a joke about Oyo. The joke about Oyo is it's called the Oh No. Thank you, Mr. Waifu, but we had a really terrible experience at that hotel. Really, really bad.
Ah, come on! Again?
What would you change about Red Dead 2? I can't play it due to being a walking simulator, in my opinion, even though fast travel. Never got to really liking the game. Well, I think that what I think Red Dead should get is some player properties. You know, houses in San Denis that you can buy, maybe like apartments too. And you can customize them, maybe like run your other businesses from them. Add like train robberies, bank robberies that you can actually do in free mode.
Brought 'em to face up to things. I got your bounty money here.
Pat, what are you the most thankful for? And can you invite me to the session? Hey, Golden. No, there isn't room right now to invite you to this session, Golden, because it's a private glitch session, so only 6 people can be in here, but when somebody leaves, I can invite you. Thank you, Samir Khan, for subscribing to the channel. And what am I the most thankful for? I guess just my luck and my success. I ultimately, I want to, I'm gonna make a video, I'm gonna make a video in the future. It's gonna be probably my next channel update after this retail one, but it's probably gonna be like a video talking a little bit about YouTube itself, and I'm gonna, and I think I'm gonna title the video "What Most YouTubers Won't Tell You." I think that's what I'll title the video, and in that video, I'm gonna talk about how a lot of YouTube success is due to luck. A lot of YouTubers don't want to admit that, but a lot of it is. Now, there definitely is skill involved in making YouTube. If I wasn't good at making, you know, lore projects and videos like I do, my channel wouldn't be at, you know, 1 million subscribers. But at the same time there is luck involved in YouTube, because it's luck that the algorithm is going to recognize you. And most YouTubers that, you know, that get big, how they start out is they start out just as regular channels, and a lot of their videos aren't that great, but then one day they upload a video that goes viral, and they get like a bunch of people that subscribe to them, and then they start building an audience from that, and the more people that watch their videos, the more it gets recommended. And I think that a lot of YouTubers don't really want to admit that a lot of YouTube does take luck. It's luck, knowing the right people, the right friend group, a ton of dedication, and yes, a ton of more luck. Yeah. And it's also luck that the game that you're playing is going to be popular. That's also the luck with that joker, too. GTA Online is a very popular game, but the thing is, if I started my YouTube channel now, there's no way I would be able to get to 1 million subscribers, and it's because GTA Online isn't as popular as it used to be back in the day. Like, most of my subscribers are from, like, the days when GTA Online got really popular. That's also one of the reasons I don't get that many views as I did in the past, because not as many people play GTA Online. But most of my subscribers I got from when we did, like, GTA Online, like, guides and lore videos and that stuff, so it used to be a more popular game, but it's kind of died down. Did Virginia have the most Civil War battles bloodshed? I'm pretty sure Virginia had the Battle of Antietam, right? Antietam was in Virginia. But Virginia had some of the most horrific battles, yeah, of the Civil War. Yeah, I'm trying to practice a free aim. Thank you, Akka, the suppressor. Thank you, man. Tell me some of your personal underrated movies that I love. Well, underrated movies. A lot of movies that I like are pretty famous movies, but if I was to tell you an underrated movie that I like, there was a movie that I watched like a month ago, and it's not I would say a very well-known movie today, but it is back in the day it was a very popular movie. It was like a classic. But does anybody know the movie The Great Escape? It's a World War II movie. It's in the 60s. I saw the movie the other day. And that is one of the best, you know, I think it's one of the best World War II movies, The Great Escape, but a lot of people don't know that one. That was a great one, yeah. Damn, I'm so bad right now. Okay. Steve McQueen, yeah. And the thing is, the very end of the movie is like the best part, the very end, because The Great Escape has like the best motorcycle chase ever in a movie. Out of all the motorcycle chases ever, it has the best one. It's like at the end of the movie, he's trying to escape. He's an American pilot that escaped from a German prisoner of war camp, and he's trying to get to the Swiss border, and he knocks a German soldier off of his motorcycle, and then he tries to get to the German border, and they're chasing him. My name is Marsoff, and yes, it's the freaking storm. Oh, well, I hope you get your power back soon, Marsoff. Thank you for the super chat. Do the people really believe Tommy Vercetti's returning to GTA 6? Do they not know that GTA 4, 5, 6 is in the HD universe, and GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas, Liberty City Stories, Vice City Stories is 3D? Well, Sweet Pumpkin, what I'll say about that is that the YouTubers, and I know, yeah, Great Escape is mentioned in Black Ops 6 with the motorcycles chase. But there's actually a Great Escape video game. I want to play that one day on the channel. But about GTA, what you said, Sweet Pumpkin, is that if you notice there are really big YouTube channels out there. And we're talking like channels that have like over 1 million subscribers, and these guys are, you know, constantly doing the speculation garbage. Where they say, oh, you know, Tommy Vercetti is going to be like an old man in GTA 6, you know, a bunch of this other stuff. But the thing is, though, is if you are a GTA expert, if you're like a GTA expert that covers theories and lore and stuff like that, then you should know the difference between the HD universe and the 3D universe. And there are so many people that don't seem to understand that. They don't understand that Los Santos, that's in GTA San Andreas, and Los Santos, that is in GTA 5, are two different Los Santoses. They are not the same Los Santos. The Los Santos in GTA 5 is based on the original Los Santos. It's inspired by it, but it's a new universe. And it's the same thing with Liberty City. Liberty City in GTA 3 and Liberty City Stories is not the same Liberty City that's in GTA 4. And the Vice City that's in GTA 6 is not the same Vice City that's in Vice City. It's a separate universe. Tommy Vercetti does not exist in the HD universe. And people don't seem to understand that. There has not been one 3D universe character, not one, that has ever appeared in an HD universe game. There is not one. Not one. The only, and people say, oh, Laszlo on the radio and stuff like that, but Laszlo on the radio is a reboot of the Laszlo on the radio in the 3D games. It's not the same guy. You will not find one gangster, one criminal, one main character, you know, even a side character from the 3D universe in the HD universe, but people don't seem to get that, and they constantly keep saying, oh, you know, it's the same universe, but it's not. It was like those stupid, like, those stupid rumors that they did is when GTA 5 came out. You guys remember when GTA 5 came out and those stupid YouTubers kept saying that that Franklin is CJ's son? Remember that? Like, oh, Franklin's CJ's son. Like, they kept saying that over and over and over again. It was stupid. It was dumb. And also, how old is Franklin even? Franklin is like in his early 20s, right? And so for Franklin to be CJ's son, he would have to be 19 years old then, because San Andreas takes place in, 1992, and then GTA 5 takes place in, 2013. So yeah, it still wouldn't make sense. It still wouldn't match up. No. That's my interpretation. It's not my interpretation. It's Rockstar's interpretation. It's what Rockstar has said. Rockstar has said that the HD and the 3D universe are separate universes. They've actually said it. They've made statements on it that it's a separate universe. It's not the same universe. React opinion on Chernobyl stalker video. Wait, what? Acost? Thank you, Akot Suppressor. There is a game I know coming out called Chernobyl Liquidators coming out soon. I want to give that game a try. Thank you, Walst, for the super chat. I don't want to get into a discussion on that current conflict. I just hope that that there's peace and that the war ends soon and that there's no more killing. That's just what I'll say, but I don't want to, speak on the politics of that. I know 3D and HD are different people defending clickbait, or there's a YouTuber makes a false, fake copy comment bots. Well, there's a lot of clickbait, Agent Reaper. They're defending, yeah, they're speculating a lot of nonsense a lot of times. What was the purpose of creating so much lore and then switching universes? So that you could go back to those cities, because they can make a whole new Liberty City. If they say Liberty City HD universe, they don't have to make it look like Liberty City in GTA 3 and Liberty City stories. And it's also the same thing as why make a new universe for Modern Warfare? So when you think about it, Captain Price that's in Modern Warfare, the new Modern Warfare games, is not the same Captain Price that's in the old Modern Warfare games. So it's a new universe. And what really sucks, what really sucks is I really liked the new Modern Warfare universe. I really did. Like the new one that they did. I liked Modern Warfare 1, and I liked Modern Warfare 2. I thought they were both great games. But then Modern Warfare 3 just ruined it for me. Like it was like you had such, good games of Modern Warfare 1 and 2 with the 2019 and 2022, and then you had Modern Warfare 3, which just sucked. So it was like the story was garbage. Like, the story in Modern Warfare 1 and 2 was way better in the reboot than in the third game was just terrible. Like I said, Valeria should have been the antagonist in Modern Warfare 3. The cartel should have come back, and they should have been the antagonists. It should not have been Walmart Makarov. Shy YT does train hopping in Urbex. You mean like when those YouTubers like ride on top of trains?
Good. You have arrived. Bon. You are ready to...
Oh, look, the stick is moving itself back. Look, it's moving by itself in the left. Look at that. It's a glitch.
We wish to make a good impression. These customers have shown they have some good taste. Their palate is simple, of course, but given their lack of culture, I have to admit that they have chosen well.
Don't you think they kind of shot themselves in the foot now because they can't do any nostalgia appearances with CJ Atami? No, I don't think they have.
Yes.
Here is what I would tell you. I don't want any GTA protagonists coming back in GTA 6. I don't want any GTA protagonists coming back. I don't want to see Nico. I don't want to see Luis. I don't want to see Michael, Trevor, or Franklin. I don't want to see any protagonists. I don't want to see Huang in Chinatown Wars also. in GTA 6. Do you know why I don't want to see any protagonist in GTA 6? You know why? It's because of what exactly? Is my stream okay? Hang on, is the stream good, guys?
Stop those horses! Pull over, you hear?
Oh, the stream's good. Okay, I don't know what's going on with the stream. I'm sorry about that now, guys. I don't know why that happened. If that happens, just refresh the stream. Refresh the stream if that happens. I'm sorry. I'm sorry everyone about that. I don't know why it's happening. But what I was saying is, the reason I don't want to see any GTA protagonists come back is because Rockstar is either going to ruin that character, or they're going to kill them off. What happened when Johnny came back? You know, do you want what happened to Johnny to happen to Nico or Trevor or Michael or whoever else in GTA 6? Because I will tell you, when you kill off a character like that, it ruins the story in the other games. It makes you think like the story in those games was like pointless, like there's no point to it whatsoever. That's what it makes you feel like. It just makes you feel garbage. And also, like, you know, those characters are done. And even if Rockstar ever went back to the 3D universe, which I highly doubt they would, but even if they went back to the 3D universe, I don't want to see like CJ or Tommy or anybody come back. And the reason for that is because those characters mostly had happy endings. You know, most of the characters in the 3D universe had somewhat good endings, except Vic Vance. So most of them had somewhat good endings. Pat, what tips could you give me when I'm doing guide videos on a game? Like, what's important? Here's the thing is, when you're making a guide video, be straight to the point. People don't like nonsense. They like it right when you get to the point. So just get right to the point at the start. If that's effective. Try to make the guide as short as possible. I know sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes the guide is going to be long, and you can't help it. If it doesn't hurt the guide, try to make it as short as possible. As long as it doesn't hurt it. As long as you don't leave out, important information. Keep the important information in, but try to keep it as short and straight to the point as possible. Because when people are looking up guides, they tend to look up guides that are short and straight to the point. Well, yeah, Agent, Johnny died, and then Dr. Friedlander is still alive. When are you gonna release Miles Edgeworth Ace Attorney Investigations? Tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the first part. Thanks for breaking down that about the universe. Drives me nuts when fans believe there's gonna be a crossover of Tommy and Jason and Lucia. Oh yeah, I agree with you. It's really dumb. Thank you, Sweet Pumpkin and Agent Reaper. Thanks, guys. Pro, if the 3D and HC universes are different, why does Franklin or Ramar reference Grove Street? Because it's Grove Street. It's a new Grove Street in that universe. That's what it is. It's the same reason why you have Los Santos again, because it's a reboot of Los Santos. Oh, and speaking of which, I recorded the next part of Yakuza. And I beat Mr. Shakedown. I really beat him up badly. I took your advice, guys, when you told me to hold R1 and then press square when Mr. Shakedown is about to attack you. And I kept doing that same move on him, and I took him down really quickly. So thank you guys for telling me about that move in the comments. Miles Edgeworth will be tomorrow. The GTA protagonists from 4 or 5 should not return because they'll kill them off, similar to Last of Us 2, how Abby killed Joel with a golf club. You know, do you know what's gonna happen in Max Payne 4? If they ever do Max Payne 4, Max Payne is gonna get killed by that human organs doctor's muscular daughter with a golf club. That's what's gonna happen in Max Payne 4. Thank you, Isaiah, for the super chat. I don't really have a Discord server. I have a Discord, but I don't use it that much. I don't talk on it much. I don't have a server though, but let's go and get this guy here. My Sunday's going good. How are you, dude? What type of pizza do you like? I generally like all types of pizza. Really like all. How less talked about are GTA 1 and 2, London. I don't really ever have people ask me questions about them. I've had people ask me, you know, will you play those games one day, but I haven't had really people ever talk about them or the stories in chat. Do you think Agent Harris was a friend or foe to Tony during The Sopranos? He was more like a frenemy. Somebody who's like a friend at times, an enemy at other times. Also, the reason that Agent Harris got so excited when Tony killed Phil at the end of The Sopranos, a lot of people don't understand that when he says, like, yeah, we're gonna win this thing. Like, when he says that, like, right when Phil dies, a lot of people don't get why he did that. The reason he did that was because Agent Harris hated being assigned to a terror squad. Like, he hated that. He wanted to still investigate organized crime. That's what he thought he was good at, and that's what he wanted to do. And what happened was when he gave Tony that information and Tony basically whacked Phil, it was more like cheering for his team, for New Jersey. That's ultimately what it was. So that's kind of why he was happy for that. GTA Online should have ended at the contract. Yeah, maybe, Sean. But here's the thing: is I will agree with you on one point. GTA Online, I would have been fine with GTA Online ending at the contract if, in exchange for that, we got 3 years of Red Dead content after that. Because I would have been totally fine with that, with GTA Online ending at the contract and then getting 3 years of Red Dead updates. And when I say Red Dead updates, I mean good Red Dead updates, like big ones. So I would have been fine with that, having like the next years until GTA 6 comes out have nothing but Red Dead updates. I would have been perfectly fine with that. But unfortunately, we didn't get that, and instead the updates kept getting worse and worse for GTA Online, and Red Dead Online completely died with their updates. So that's yeah. Can we sell my moonshine and trader? Yeah, we can do it right now, Justin. Thank you, Justin and Sean. Is that why Harris flipped from being a constant enemy for Tony Soprano to helping him out and his family? Not necessarily his friend, but helping. Well, like I said, he missed being a regular FBI agent investigating organized crime. He hated the terrorist stuff. He hated being part of the terrorist squad and investigating terrorists. He hated that. That's why he always showed up by Satrial's, because it reminded him of his old days when he would go after the mob. So it's kind of like a weird way of him hanging out the mob, kind of to relive nostalgia. That's kind of what it was for him. I'm almost up to 500 subscribers. Congratulations, Genie.
In there. Careful. This one bites. There you go.
Do you think Rockstar should have made better community moderators for GTA Online community, in your opinion? Yeah, I think they should have. I will tell you guys that the Rockstar support is like some of the most garbage, terrible support I've ever seen. There was there have been people who have done the orbital cannon glitch on me, and on my live streams where they've orbital cannoned me like 6 times in 1 hour. And what I've done is I've recorded it on my streams, and then I send the clip to Rockstar and Rockstar support, and they do absolutely nothing about it. And they would always say the same thing: I'll just report them through the in-game menu. And I would report them through the in-game menu, and then I would see them next week, and they would come into my live stream and orbital cannon me again. So that's all I say is it was just terrible. It was garbage. There was one time I remember, this one guy on GT Online, he said something to me so nasty. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen somebody say to me. But he said something extremely offensive and extremely racist about Polish people. It was a really, really bad thing. I don't want to talk about what he said. The only thing I'll say about, he made a comment about Polish people in World War II, and it was a really, really nasty comment. And he sent this to me on the phone in GT Online when you can like text people. And what I did was I recorded the clip, I made it into an unlisted clip, and then I sent it to Rockstar support. And Rockstar support did nothing about it. They just said, "Oh, report the guy through the in-game menu." And I couldn't report the guy through Sony because Sony doesn't, it's a GTA Online message. So there really was nothing I could do at that point. But Rockstar's like, "Oh, just report the guy for the in-game, menu," and nothing happened. And that was that. Yeah. But yeah, I've hated Rockstar support. It was just it's such a terrible, terrible service. Like honestly, I feel like the people there, they're just supposed to like reply no to everything and just type like copy and pasted messages. What's more practical in life, MMA or bodybuilding? Well, the thing is, though, about the mixed martial arts, if you're talking about that, I've personally never really been a fan of that. And the reason I don't like the MMA stuff is because I don't like it how they like roll around, they like fall down, they're like on top of each other. I didn't like that. If I'm gonna watch like a fighting sport, I'm gonna watch boxing. I'm not like a major boxing fan, but if I'm gonna watch any kind of fighting sport, I prefer watching boxing because I see them both just standing up, trying to knock each other out. I prefer that much more than like them falling, rolling around. I'm not saying MMA is like a easy sport or that. It's definitely, I definitely would never be able to do it. I'd get destroyed pretty quickly. But I'm just not a fan of it. I just don't like the style of the fighting. I like boxing. They're standing both up and they're trying to knock each other out more. As for bodybuilding, what I will say about bodybuilding is I don't understand it personally. Like I work out, and everybody wants to work out and have a nice body, but like this obsession with like having like the most perfect body. I think that at a point it starts affecting your mental health because you're just absolutely obsessed with having like the perfect body, and like you're just you like carefully calculate your meals all the time. It's like, oh, I can eat this, I can't eat this, I have to eat this, like that it drives somebody insane. Stuff just like that. As long as you're not eating junk food like every single day, who cares? So it's not a big deal. Like for me, for example, like I don't drink any alcohol. I don't drink any soda. I haven't drank soda in like 15 years. So soda was one thing that was very easy for me to give up because I was never a big soda guy. But if you're telling me, do I have to give up like hamburgers and stuff like that? No, I'm not giving up hamburgers. I don't eat hamburgers every day, but I like hamburgers. So I'd rather be able to eat the foods that I like, and not have like the most amazing body. So it's like at least I'll be more happier being able to enjoy eating what I want to eat than like going on this crazy diet and doing all this stuff. So that's what I'll say about it too. And also, one of my friends, he studies nutrition. Like he knows about the human body and all of that stuff. And he told me that the people that are ripped, they are actually unhealthy to a degree, because that you're not supposed to be ripped. That's like, because being ripped is a fairly new thing. It's something that happened within like, I would say the last like 50, 60 years. Have there been ripped people in history before? Sure. But it's not typically, it's typically a new thing. People being ripped. That's whole six-pack thing. That is not, that's pretty much still a relatively modern thing. People haven't had bodies like that in the past. So people didn't, check their calorie intake or, like, do all of this, crazy stuff that they're doing today. And so my buddy who's knows a bit about nutrition, he told me that the people that have, like, six-packs and they, constantly working out, that not having that little fat, like, not having all that fat there, that's actually bad for you. And that's apparently why people that are ripped, that, like, in their 50s, they drop dead from, like, a heart attack or whatever. I'm not an expert, that's just what my buddy told me, that you need to have some fat there, that, like, being ripped is actually not healthy. So I don't know if that's completely true, but I believe my friend when he told me that, so that's what I'll say about it, is, so the whole rip thing is still a fairly, modern thing, a fairly new thing. Oh, Miss Chat? Oh, I'm sorry, Agent Reaper. Let me look. To my opinion, the reason GTA 5 is not a strong story than GTA 4 is because it's annoying Vinewood celebrities like Devin Weston. And I think Devin Weston is the worst antagonist. I think he is the worst GTA antagonist in the entire series. I do think so. I think he's the worst one. And when I say worst, I don't mean, like, evil or dangerous. I just boring, like, badly written. And the thing is about Devin Weston, a lot of people say that Massimo is the worst antagonist, the guy that's in Liberty City Stories, the Sicilian gangster that you kill. But Massimo, even though Massimo only appears in 2 missions, I still think that Massimo is a better villain than Devin Weston, because Massimo was a Sicilian mobster that had come to Liberty City and unified all the gangs and mafias. Like, he tried to unify the Sindacos, the Forellis, the Diablos, the Yardis, the Triads, all against the Leones. And the Leones beat all those gangs in the war. And then you kill him at the end of the game when he takes the mayor hostage. So I thought that he was a better villain than even Devin Weston, even though he only appears 2 times. So yeah, Devin Weston, he was just annoying. He wasn't scary. Devin Weston was evil, sure, but he was, like, just annoying. He was annoying. He was entitled. He wasn't funny. He was just like just a scumbag in general. I really hope the antagonist in GTA 6 is, like, a really scary cartel boss. That's what I really hope, like a really evil cartel boss. That's who I think the antagonist should be in GTA 6. Thank you, Suspect 13. And thank you, Alien. Johnny Sack and Tony were cool with each other. Carmine and Tony had some respect for each other. Why would Phil tarnish all of this? Because of ego? Ego, pride, and feelings. Feelings are probably... the thing is, and everyone who made a super chat, I'm gonna read your comments too. I'm just responding to each one. Just give me a moment. The thing about it is when you look at it, the New York Mafia bosses, like Johnny Sack had his downfall, and then Phil had his downfall. But Johnny's downfall and Phil's downfall is different. Johnny's main issue was his ego. That's what I would say is. Johnny Sack had an ego complex, and Johnny Sack was always power hungry. That's what I'll say about him. He was a pretty power hungry guy, and he always wanted to be at the top. And the thing is, though, is that, when you look at Bobby and Tony's relationship, Bobby and Tony had a pretty bad relationship at the start, but near the end, they actually had a pretty decent relationship. So Bobby was, Tony's underboss, and so they had a pretty decent relationship. I could not imagine Bobby backstabbing Tony. I can't imagine that. But Johnny, on the other hand, tried to backstab Carmine. So, you think about that, he tried to get Tony to kill Carmine. He was always a power-hungry guy, and Tony even told Johnny, don't be boss, because if you be boss, there's going to be a massive target on your back, and the feds are going to be all over you. And Johnny didn't listen. Johnny wanted to be the boss, and then he got arrested. He got basically pinched by the FBI. Jimmy Petriel, he was the one who ratted out Johnny. So that was Johnny's downfall. Phil's downfall, on the other hand, is feelings. It was Phil Phil dealt with everything with feelings. It was nothing but feelings, feelings, feelings. If you compare Phil, for example, to Carmine, Carmine was all about business. He was all about making money, and feelings were aside. And that's Carmine was like right when like the Ginny Sack thing happened with like Ralph. Like Carmine was 100% in the right on that. 100% in the right on that. Ralph was a scumbag. You know, he was a terrible human being. But if they had killed him, they would have lost so much money from the Esplanade, and the entire organization would have suffered over what? Over, John getting pissed over his wife getting insulted. So it was, so Carmine was completely in the right on that. John did not seem to understand that. And also, the thing is that Carmine could have done nothing for John, but he still tried to do something for him. He got John $200,000 and got Ralph to apologize and made Ralph, literally shamed Ralph, embarrassed Ralph. And that was enough. $200,000 for a joke making fun of your wife. That's more than enough. And, you embarrassed the guy. But for Johnny, that wasn't good enough. He always wanted more and more and more. So he wanted his ego. He wanted to show off his power. And Phil, it was just the feelings. It was like Phil blamed Tony for Phil blamed Tony for his brother dying. When Phil's brother was a piece of crap. His brother Billy was a terrible human being. But Phil's would constantly hold that against Tony. And then the veto situation. When the veto situation happened, that was Phil more trying to make like a point, like trying to show off like he's this tough guy. That was ultimately what it was about. It was a nonsense situation. It's a situation that should have never even happened in the first place, but Phil made such a big deal out of it. And that final meeting between Phil and Tony, there's a lot of symbolism in that final meeting. Tony makes a reasonable offer to Phil, and then Phil says to him, Phil starts making fun of Tony, like makes a joke, says like Charles Schwab over here, and Tony says like, nothing but stupid jokes, and then Phil starts saying, you want compromise, 20 years in the can, and blah, 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 this. The problem with Phil is that Phil believed that he was going to get massive respect for being in prison for 20 years. He thought that by keeping his mouth shut and being in prison for 20 years that he's going to get some, massive respect. But in reality, a lot of the guys in the mafia, they don't care if you've been in prison for that long. They're not going to show you respect just because, you've been in prison for 20 years. They're not going to, roll out the red carpet for you. They're not even going to give you a bunch of money for coming out of prison. So that was Phil's mistake, is he thought that by being in prison for 20 years that it was, that they were all going to respect him, bow down to him, roll out the red carpet. Didn't happen. And it was Phil just, what Tony said at the end is he said that feelings ruin everything, and Tony was 100% right on that. But Phil didn't seem to understand that. He constantly was obsessed with feelings, would let emotion cloud his judgment. It was all about him. He expected everybody to support his vendetta against Tony, and it just backfired on him badly. Phil, I would say that out of all the Sopranos characters that died, I would say that Phil's death is probably my favorite death in the entire series. My favorite, out of all the people that got killed in that show, his death was the best one. And it was such a satisfying death, just how he died. He deserved that completely. He was such an annoying character. I never liked Phil. I thought he was always an annoying character, but he deserved that definitely. And thank you, Alien, for the super chat. Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. Play it. Game is 20 years old. Yeah, I could play those games. I used to play Splinter Cell Conviction back in the day. Thank you, Vertigo. If Hangar 13 ran out of ideas for the Mafia series story, should they create a new crime series called Cartel to play as a member of the Cartel? Yeah, I think that would be cool. I think that would be, because one thing I will say about the Mafia series, when I say the Mafia series, I'm not talking about the Mafia games, I'm just talking about Mafias in general, is Mafias are severely overdone. They're severely overused when you think about it, and specifically the Italian Mafia. The Italian Mafia is so overdone, in movies and in games, pretty much every, 90% of Mafia movies are Italian Mafia, almost always. And even if it's in America, it's Italian-American Mafia. Always. So it's the Italian Mafia is just so overused in movies and games that I would love for them to start making games where you play as different criminal organizations, different nationalities, maybe organizations that you don't really hear about that often in games and stuff like that. And so one thing that sucked is that Sleeping Dogs was supposed to be the Triad Mafia series. That's what it's supposed to be. So Sleeping Dogs is supposed to be a series where you play as the triads. So, you know, we have the Yakuza games where, you know, you play as the Yakuza in Japan, but Sleeping Dogs are going to give us that one where you play as the triads, the Chinese mafia. And so Sleeping Dogs, there was a sequel planned to Sleeping Dogs, it was going to be called Triad Wars. And Triad Wars was going to be an online game, but it was going to be a sequel to Sleeping Dogs. And it was going to take place in the same, you know, map, Hong Kong, and it was going to be online where you make your own triad character and you rise through the ranks, complete missions of other players. And there's a little gameplay of it. You can watch some gameplay of Triad Wars. But unfortunately, that got canceled, and it was supposed to turn into a series of Triad games, but we didn't get that. So if they made like a Cartel series, like a Cartel series of games, I think that would be cool. Yeah, definitely. Like, you know, Cartel 1 or Cartel 2. Even though the name sounds kind of cringy, I think it could work. Like Cartel 1, Cartel 2. Like, it could definitely be called that. And the closest thing that we got to a Cartel series, the closest thing is a Scarface. Scarface, The World Is Yours, you played as a cartel, you ran a cartel, the entire game was focused on the cartel, it was an open world game. And Scarface was supposed to get a sequel, where Tony was going to expand his cartel to Las Vegas. That would have been really cool. But unfortunately, and there's gameplay of it, there's a little bit of gameplay of it that you can watch on YouTube, a tiny bit, it's like, I think, under a minute. But there was a sequel supposed to be to Scarface. But unfortunately, we didn't get that, and that got canceled. So there was a lot of really good games, Triad Wars, you know, Scarface 2, really good games that got canceled, unfortunately. You know, also Mercenaries 3, which I'm playing right now. Mercenaries 3 got canceled. That was also another great open world game. That was going to come out, but it got canceled. Thank you, Mr. Jesus. Thank you, Agent Reaper, for the super chat. Oh, let me help Justin sell his stuff. I'm sorry. Wait, is my stream crashing, guys? Is my stream quality good? I'm looking at the chat. People are saying that it keeps crashing. What's going on? Is my stream okay? Okay, guys, I'm not putting in mid-roll ads. I don't do that. It's just that when you restart the stream, when you refresh the stream, it counts as like you putting the stream starting up again. I'm sorry for that. I don't know why it keeps doing that. I apologize. If it happens, just refresh the stream. You should be able to see it. Okay. Wait. Justin, can you invite me? I'll help you sell your stuff. I'm sorry about that. I started talking too much. I started talking stories and stuff. How often has it happened, guys? The cutting out. How often has it happened? How many times has it happened already? Thanks, Pro. I'm going to take on boxing. I've always been in fights, so I don't mind. It's a useful survival skill. Bodybuilders have a bad rep. Yeah, and like I said about the bodybuilders, it's like, you know, life is there for you to enjoy it. And, you know, being absolutely obsessed with this really amazing body is going to destroy your mental health. And so, like, you know, the thing is, people in the bodybuilder community, like, they are, you know, they are so picky with their food. They're absolutely obsessed with their food. Like, oh, don't eat pizza. Don't eat pizza. Like, that's so bad for you. You know, don't eat burgers. Don't eat burgers. You know, that's really, really bad for you. Don't eat a hot dog. Don't eat that. Oh, don't eat a pretzel. No. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's bad for your body. You know, stuff like that. But the thing is, though, is what I'll say about this is, like, these foods, like, you know, hot dogs, you know, pretzels, burgers, pizzas, are these foods healthy? Some, maybe to a degree. You know, hot dogs not that healthy. Pizza, burgers. Some burgers can be healthy. Some burgers very unhealthy. Depends on what you eat. But regardless, whether the food is healthy or not, it's food, and it's tasty food. It's good food. You know, food that you can enjoy. And what I'll say about this is, at least be happy that you have food like that, like hot dogs and hamburgers and pizza. A lot of people, in a lot of countries, they would wish that they had food like this. So a lot of people in a lot of poor countries, they don't have food like this, like all this fast food and all this stuff that we can, you know, enjoy. These are luxuries. And so when I hear these bodybuilding, you know, people just like, you know, saying, don't eat pizza, don't do that. Like, you know, it happened to me, a few years ago. A few years ago, I used to have a Planet Fitness membership in my parents' town in New York. And I went to the Planet Fitness, and sometimes the Planet Fitness would have free pizza. And so I would do a workout, and then I have a slice of pizza. And I had this guy come up to me one time and tell me, don't eat pizza after a workout. It's going to ruin your workout. I'm like, excuse me, mind your own business. Even if I don't know if it's going to ruin my workout, I don't know that. I'm not an expert on nutrition. But regardless of whether it's gonna ruin my workout or not, I like pizza. If I'm gonna eat pizza, I'm gonna enjoy pizza. It's like, mind your own business and go away. So it's like that. So, you know, these, like I said, these bodybuilder people are like this. Sometimes they just go too far and they go crazy. At least Steve Haynes is a constant threat. Devin Weston just whines and is insufferable. He's only evil because he's a typical rich guy. Yeah. Thank you, Alien. And thank you, Suspect 13. Okay. Guys, also, about the stream cutting out today, I'm really sorry about that. I'm gonna check my OBS settings today after the stream. So once the stream ends today, I'm gonna check all my settings to make sure this doesn't happen again. I'm really sorry, guys. I don't know why it's doing this. I'm really sorry, everyone. And I will tell you something, if you look at Gordon Ramsay, for example, he's a guy I used to watch a lot. I don't know anything about cooking, really, but I did watch Gordon Ramsay a lot back in the day. Gordon Ramsay, and Hell's Kitchen, they serve pizza. They do that. And so this guy is like a world-renowned chef. He is like one of the, best cooks in the world. And, he makes pizza, too. He makes burgers. Gordon understands that these foods might not be, the healthiest, but people like them. They're a luxury. You can enjoy them. Stuff like that. Sitting for, hours playing video games. That's not necessarily the most healthiest thing to do also, but, we do it because it's a luxury, because it's, we enjoy it. And that's what I'll say is enjoy life. If you want to eat pizza, want to eat a burger, you want to play video games, go do it. Don't be saying, obsessed with these people, this is bad for you, that's bad for you, this is bad for you. Just do what you want. Enjoy life and, take advantage of these luxuries. That's what I'll say. I yelled at my landlord once and I apologized. He said if I feel bad about it, I could buy him pizza sometime. That's from Spider-Man. How are you liking Majima's Legend style? I gotta get used to it more. I got more used to Kiryu's fighting style recently. Are corrupt businessmen, women more powerful than crime bosses or even cartel bosses? It depends. If you're talking like a really powerful CEO, they could have more power than even a mafia boss to a degree, yeah. How threatening would Colonel Cortez be if he was an antagonist? Oh, pretty threatening. The thing about Colonel Cortez is, Colonel Cortez is actually not just a drug lord. Do you know what else he is? He's a dictator. That's what he is. He actually runs a country. So he's the leader of an entire country. They never say what country he's from. He's from Central America, but he's basically the head of state in that country. He's basically the dictator of the country. But he's based on a real person. He's a parody of Manuel Noriega, the guy that you see him in Black Ops 2 also. But basically, he's based on the Panamanian dictator. That's who he's ultimately based on. But about Colonel Cortez, what I'll say about Colonel Cortez is Colonel Cortez was a pretty likable character. That's what I'll say about him, because he never backstabbed Tommy, and he tried to help out Tommy when he could. So that's what I'll say about him. Is he didn't screw Tommy over. I'd say the real main villain in GTA 5 is Steve Haynes. He should have had the final encounter, not Devin. I honestly enjoyed Steve's A+ performance. Yeah, I think Steve Haynes should have been a better the antagonist as well too. I do think, what I will say about Steve Haynes is I thought that his death was funny, because he always acted like a big shot, and then when you snipe him, the cameraman basically says, the cameraman says, "Oh, they shot him. What was his name again?" That's what he says. Okay, Thieves Landing. We're not that far from it. Can you speak some Spanish? Sí, hablo español. Yo estudio español todos los días. Mi español es muy malo. Yo estudio español en mi teléfono con Duolingo. Was that good? Do you speak Italian? No. I mean, Steve literally had evidence against all three characters to have them locked up. What does Devin have? Has Merryweather and still loses. Yep. Thank you, Alien. I skipped your comment. No, I didn't skip your comment, April. There's a lot of people that are posting. What's your question? Jack Doherty broke his collarbone. What? He hurt himself again? Oh, if there's enemies up there, don't kill all of them. If there's enemies up there. Don't kill all of them, because sometimes there's a glitch where if you kill all the enemies before before the carriage arrives, you can't deliver it. Deliver the carriage quickly. Deliver it. Favorite Max Payne quote? Oh, easy. My favorite Max Payne quote is, "Say what you want about Americans, but we understand capitalism. You buy yourself a product and you get what you pay for." Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare 2026. What about it, April? Did anyone give you a hard time in high school for being Polish American? No, not at all. But in middle school, it happened. In middle school, people were racist to me for being, Polish American. People made, comments about Polish people that happened. It wasn't like bullying, I would say, but it was like people did make nasty comments at times. Is there a Polish mafia? Of course. Who's the scummiest Don in The Godfather Part 1? Don Barzini, probably. How he manipulated a lot of the events, and then he tried to act like Don Corleone's friend. Where did the whole joke about Polish people being dumb come from? It probably comes from the stereotype that Polish people drink a lot. That's probably where it comes from. But I don't think that's ever been answered. Is Jaime Weiss the biggest Polish gangster? Yes. When it comes to Polish gangsters in history, yes, Jaime Weiss would be the biggest Polish gangster of all time. Yes, I would say so. The thing about what just happened? We get transported in the moonshine, I think. The thing about Jaime Weiss is that Jaime Weiss was not his real name. He actually changed his name to sound more American. That's what it was, because a lot of people had a hard time pronouncing his name. I think his first name was Henryk in Polish, and his last name was like a really long Polish name, but he changed his name.
Excusez-moi. Your boss has the back ready to deliver. If you are interested.
You know what was really weird about the what was really weird about the North Side Gang is that the North Side Gang was a gang that was dominated by Irish and Polish people. That's what was so weird about the gang. And the reason that that's weird is because usually a lot of gangs are just one nationality. Gangs that are usually like made up of multiple nationalities, they start forming factions and they start fighting each other. But that was like a gang that was made up of like Polish and Irish and a few Germans, and the gang actually worked pretty well, and there was no conflict among each other. Is cashier a loser job? No, absolutely not. Here's the thing is, there is no such thing as a loser job. That is a completely made-up term. It does not exist. There's no such thing as a loser job. A job is a job. You're making money, and that's what counts. So there's no such thing as a loser job. You're working, you're doing something, you're trying to make money. Here's what I'll say about this is do you guys remember in my latest part of Yakuza, I actually answered this question. So my latest part of Yakuza, I was doing Hibiki's story with Majima, and during the special training, she says that, I hope that my younger brother doesn't judge me one day when he, for me working in a cabaret club. And, my answer to that is that who cares if you work in a cabaret club? You're making good money, and, this is what you like to do. And so that's all that matters. So as long as you are not hurting anybody, as long as you're not breaking the law, you're doing everything legally, who cares what you do for a living? Who cares? Nobody has the right to judge on that. You do what you want to do. As long as you're following the law, it's a legal job, then do whatever you want to do. And I would say there's no such thing as a loser job. You make money at the end of the day. So, people might make fun of girls and they say, they work at cabaret clubs. They make plenty of money and really good tips. So that's what I'll say about that, is that they make good money. And so it's like, I don't think that anybody has the right to really judge somebody on, what they do. And I will say this to you, when you asked me earlier, is a cashier a loser job? Do you know who the biggest losers are out there? The biggest losers. Not the cashiers. You know what the biggest losers are? I'll tell you something. The biggest losers are those kids that they literally look down on cashiers, like those elitist college kids, the kids who go to college. They look down on cashiers. Their mommy and daddy is paying their entire tuition. They're not even working, and then they make fun of cashiers. Those guys are the biggest losers because they don't know what it's like to work. Their rich parents are paying for their entire college education, and at the same time is they're looking down on people who are working as cashiers, saying, oh, you know, you're beneath me, you're a peasant, blah, blah, blah. Those guys are the biggest losers ever, because at least a cashier, at least they're working, at least they're making money, they're doing something to make money. While these rich college kids who have their entire tuition paid for by mommy and daddy, what are they doing? Absolutely nothing, except just sucking off mommy and daddy's tuition fund. Was just reminded how good Soap's death was in Modern Warfare 3 original. It was so heartbreaking. They spit in the face of the franchise and made a mockery of his death. Yep. And that entire scene with Makarov was just stupid. Like, Makarov just shoots him in the head and then just runs out the back door. People even made a meme out of it where I said, like, where the hell is Makarov? He ran out the back door. But that was such a stupid, it was such a stupid, scene. It was a really, really bad scene. Thank you, Alien, for the super chat. Taco Bell really stepped up their game this year, alright, with the WTF steak and queso Crunchwraps slider swap steak for either chicken and the birthday cake churros. Thank you for the super chat, Blinded Eagle. I do like eating Taco Bell. It just whenever I have Taco Bell, I do really enjoy the food, but sometimes I have to like lay down after I have Taco Bell, because it affects me kind of later. Like after a couple hours when I digest it, but it is good. I generally do enjoy it. I just got told by a coworker today that my boss talks behind my back and says I'm lazy. I am a driver and I do front trail and commercial, not lazy. Well, I would also take that with a grain of salt unless you absolutely trust that person. Like, do you trust that person? Because that person could just be trying to start rumors, to start a rift between you and your boss. That's also a possibility. But if you absolutely trust that person, then I guess believe it. But make sure that you trust that person. And also think about why that person told you that too. Unless they're your friend. The only way I could... there's only two reasons that person would tell you that. The first reason is they're your friend, and they care about you, so they're telling you what your boss says behind your back. Or second, they're trying to take advantage of you, and they're trying to create a rift between you and your boss. It's one of those two. So it's either they're helping you, or they're trying to create a rift. So just think about whether you trust the person or not. But yeah, I will tell you though, I had a supervisor of mine who would talk behind my back, and what happened was, it was one time where I got so pissed. This happened in like 2018, so this was like a really long time ago when this happened. You know, almost about 7 years ago actually. But basically, with the supervisor that I didn't like, my boss, there was coworkers of mine who they would constantly call out, like not show up to work, not come in on time. And the thing is, they never had any kind of punishment. Like, the boss never went after them or anything like that. And I covered shifts. I covered shifts for people all the time. So whenever people didn't show up to work, I would cover their shifts all the time, over and over and over again. And one time, my mom, she wanted to go to church, like the day before, like Easter. It was like right around that time. And I remember that I had contacted my boss a month before that whole thing had actually happened. And I told him, you know, I'm going to need this day off. And he's like, oh, I can't guarantee you that day. I'm like, what do you mean? It's like a month in advance, and I'm constantly covering shifts for people. And then the day rolls around, and guess what? He puts me on the schedule. He puts me on that day specifically. And so what ends up happening is I tried to contact several people at my job, people that I would always cover their shifts, always do it, and it was never anybody that wanted to help me. Never. It was always expected to cover their shifts. They would always guilt trip me, like, oh, I need your help here. Please, Pat, you're doing me a big favor. Please, you know, I'm going to be out of town. I really need you to cover this shift. I'll owe you one, Pat. But then, you know, when I need help, it's like nobody's ever, you know, there to help me out. And so I end up having to work that day, and I'm working that day, and I finished all my work. All my tasks were finished to me, and one of the reasons I was able to finish everything was because the store was dead. There was, like, virtually nobody in the store. Like, nobody. Like, it was completely empty. There was barely anybody in the parking lot. And the supervisor was there. There was a cashier at the front, my friend. And my friend that worked there, he was actually my childhood friend. So he was my friend that I grew up with. I got him a job there. And what happened was I told my boss, I texted him, can I go? And my boss says, you have to talk to the supervisor. So I talk to the supervisor, and I say to her, can I go, please? I finished all my tasks. She starts giving me an attitude, starts telling me I'm ungrateful to her. I don't even know ungrateful for what exactly. But just arguing with me, you blah, 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 this. And eventually she says, fine, just, take your coat and go. And, I take my jacket and my coat, and I leave. And what happens is, after I leave, she apparently starts bad-mouthing me. She's like, oh, he's lying. He's not really going to church with his mom. She said that to my friend, and my friend texted me afterwards, and she said that. I believe him because I know her. That, like, oh, he's lying. He just doesn't feel like working today. He's lazy, stuff like. It's like I finished all my work, all the tasks the boss gave me. So I didn't appreciate being talked to like that personally. It, talk behind my back. I did not appreciate that, but I know what it's like. It makes you feel like crap. The only thing I'll say to you is that if your boss talks to you behind your back like that, the next time your boss asks you for help on your day off, say, I'm busy. Sorry, I'm not coming in. Your boss wants to talk to you like that, alien. Just next time he asks you for help on your day off, he calls you. Oh, can you come in today? I need help. Nope, I can't. I'm busy. That's how you deal with that right there. He doesn't want to be nice to you. He doesn't want to respect you. He doesn't want to value you. You shouldn't value him too. That's it. Thank you, Jaws, for sponsoring my channel. Thank you, man. I don't know whether to believe them, but it hurts knowing that my dad knows my boss. Mom says my boss is sort of my guardian, so I don't know what to think. Well, like I said, think about that carefully. Think about whether you trust the person, because the person could be making it up. That said that your boss is like talking behind your back. Think about what they could gain from that too. But that's what I'll say about that too. Is just consider that whether you trust this person or not. Will you consider Claude the Michael Myers of GTA? Well, he kind of likes chaos, likes violence. Do you know about socioeconomics? I'm an expert on it. It's one of the primary causes of the types of human behavior. You mean how people act based on their class and stuff like that? Or is that what you're talking about? What's for dinner? I'm gonna cook some soup tonight. I haven't had soup in a long time. I'm gonna cook it later tonight. I'm probably gonna cook chicken broth with pork beans. Probably what I'll do. Here we go. Thank you, Shadow Narwhal, for that super chat. I can try to play Yakuza Kiwami sometime later this year. The type of morality that people live by, huh? I work customer service. My position is a driver, but I do front retail and commercial. I do all three jobs when I need to. So it's not cool to hear that. No, I get you. I know exactly how you feel. I would cover shifts all the time for people that were ungrateful to me. So I know exactly how you feel, dude. The only thing I would say is that try to gather a little bit more evidence before you believe that. Like try to I would just say like I don't know, like spreading rumors. No, not necessarily, but you yourself said you don't know if you trust the person, so that's what I'll say too, because they could be making up the whole thing to start drama between you and your boss. It's also a possibility, but yeah. Maybe in a way, Shadow Narwhal. Hey, Pro, I'm sorry I missed the other stream. You don't have to apologize, dude. Don't apologize. Watch the streams whenever you want. Is Dave Norton a good guy? He's better than Steve Haynes, but he's not necessarily a good person. Do you still talk with your coworker friends? Some of them. Two of my coworkers invited me to their wedding. They got married. I went to their wedding in 2023. Well, about holidays, I'll tell you this. When I worked in retail, I worked what was it? I worked from 2013 to 2019, and I worked at pretty much every single Thanksgiving. So that would be before 2018, because 2019 I quit, but 2018, there was an incident in 2018, so I worked 2013, Thanksgiving, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. Yeah, so I worked basically 5 Thanksgivings in a row. And the reason that I worked 5 Thanksgivings in a row was because the store was empty, nobody really came in. And at the same time is, if I didn't work Thanksgiving, I'd have to work either Christmas or New Year's Eve, and I don't want to work Christmas, so I'd rather work Thanksgiving than have to work Christmas. But what happened is, in 2018, my mom basically said to me, like, I'm gonna make like a really, big dinner this year. Can you not work this Thanksgiving? And what happened was my boss, called me, a couple weeks before that, and he said to me, that, like, I need you to cover 2 or 3 shifts, like, in the next 2 weeks. Can you do that? These were shifts that I wasn't supposed to work, not on my days off. I told my boss, I can cover these extra shifts for you, but in exchange, I don't want to work Thanksgiving, Christmas, or Christmas Eve or New Year's. None of those holidays. I'll cover you these extra shifts, but I don't want to work any of the holidays this year, because my job, there was a policy you had to work 1 holiday at the end of the year. So it was either Christmas, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. But my boss basically said, yeah, I agree. And I covered those, those shifts for my boss, and my boss did keep his word. He didn't put me on Thanksgiving. But what happened was, the day before Thanksgiving, my coworker had texted me, and it was a coworker of mine. He was kind of annoying, but he wasn't like a really bad guy. But he texted me like the day before, and he basically started saying, like, Pat, I'm sick. I've got the flu. I'm in really bad shape. Can you cover my shift on Thanksgiving? And like, I really should have just put the phone down. But I felt bad for the guy, and I was like, sure, I'll do it for you, I'll cover for you. And so my mom was kind of pissed at me for that, and for good reason. My mom was right to be pissed at me for that, but I ended up covering his shift. My mom was nice enough to wait for me to come back, so I didn't work, I didn't come home really late. I came home, I think it was like 7 or 8 p.m., so it was like still enough to enjoy Thanksgiving dinner. But then what happened was, when I came back to work a couple days after that, I had coworkers of mine that told me, he's like, why did you cover his shift? And I'm like, he said he was sick. And they're like, no, he's not sick. He does this every single year. Every single year, he calls and texts us and tells us that, that he's sick, he has the flu, he can't make it on Thanksgiving. He does this every single, like, year. And I was like, why didn't you guys tell me? And they're like, we thought you knew. And so apparently they all knew that the guy was doing this. I had no idea he does this every year. I didn't know he did that. So nobody told me about that. So he lied to me about being sick. He was not sick. He did not have the flu. And what ended up happening is, I was so pissed about that, because that was pretty much my breaking point where I was getting taken advantage of. So lying to me that you're sick and you have the flu on Thanksgiving just so you don't have to work, so I have to miss my Thanksgiving when I specifically requested that day off and I worked extra shifts. I was pissed about that. But I will tell you this, I got my revenge on him. I did get my revenge on that guy. Because what I did was, one of my friends, he got promoted to supervisor. And he was a fairly new employee there. And what happened was, next year, I wasn't working there next year. I quit in September of 2019, but when it was October 2019 rolled around, like right around that time, I texted my friend who was a supervisor there, and I said, this guy that you're working with, I guarantee you, he's going to text you and tell you that he can't work Thanksgiving, and he's going to say he's going to have the flu. Watch out for that. He's going to say that. And then what ended up happening is my buddy texted me, and he's like, Pat, he said it to me. He called me, he said to me that he has the flu, and that he can't come in. And so that was pretty much it. I got him there. I screwed him over there. Did I kind of snitch on him? Maybe in a way, but that was not fair what he did to me. A year ago. And so the fact that you're gonna be sick 2 times in a row, have the flu 2 times, like that. So literally, I literally contacted my friend who was supervisor. I told him he's gonna do that. He's gonna try to call out on that day. Just be prepared for it. Don't let him do it. But that was basically it. That's how I got my revenge. Is I made him work on Thanksgiving next year. I made him work on that. But that's messed up. Is like if you don't want to work Thanksgiving, you should tell me straight up. Don't lie to my face and tell me that you have the flu or that you're in no condition to come into work. But that's basically I was pissed. I was really, really pissed because I thought I was doing this guy a favor, and that was something that really annoyed me. Were my parents strict growing up? To a degree. My parents were strict if I did something wrong. So if I did something like, stupid, yeah, my parents were pretty strict. But as long as I was doing everything I was supposed to be, I was behaving, I got good grades in school, my parents were chill and generally let me do whatever I wanted. So that was pretty much it. My parents even let me stay up to like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning on weekends. Like, they would not stop me. So that's when I was like in school. How do you eradicate corruption? You can't. It's almost impossible to eradicate corruption. You can try to get rid of as much of it as possible, but you always have a tiny amount of corruption left. There's always going to be a tiny bit left. One country that was really strict with corruption and actually did a pretty decent job of it. I don't know if you would necessarily support this, but Singapore. Singapore is Singapore is a pretty authoritarian country, and it's pretty ironic because usually authoritarian countries are very corrupt, but Singapore, even though it's a pretty authoritarian place, is actually a lot less corrupt than a lot of Western countries. And what Singapore basically did was, if you were a politician, you were accused of corruption, it was either life in prison or death penalty. That's what Singapore would do. And if you, and when Singapore did that, the corruption fell dramatically. Like, corruption plummeted. Whoa, Pat, revenge is super sweet at times. Love it. Thank you, Alien. Thank you for the super chat. Did you know that the Brazilian military police and Rio SWAT team still have the Madsen light machine gun in their arsenal? They figured those due to reliability and intimidating sounds. You mean the World War I machine gun, the one with the magazine on the top? Is that what you're talking about? That gun's over 100 years old. I think the Madsen, I think that's Dutch. Isn't that Dutch? I think it's, which lieutenant did I like the most? Kuze or Awano, or Shibasu. Well, Shibasu I hated the most. Kuze. Yeah, Kuze. Kuze was that type of character that you start hating at the start of the game, but you start liking him at the end of the game. It's kind of great, his character development. Shibasuwa was the biggest scumbag. He was even worse than Awano. It was Danish, invented in 1902. Oh, I was close. I knew it was from one of I knew it was from a smaller European country. I remember that. It was either Belgium, Netherlands, or Denmark, but I was, almost. Would I rather have an MP40 or a Thompson? What, you mean like in a combat situation? Assuming that I can have as much ammo as I want, I would say MP40. Larger magazine, less recoil, doesn't have as much power, obviously, but a bullet is a bullet. But the Thompson has a select fire mode. The MP40 does not. The MP40 is only full auto, which you can fire in bursts, but that's... Grove Street family, Saints Row 1 or 2, who wins? Honestly, If I put that in a poll and I asked people who would win, the Saints or Grove Street, most people would probably vote for Grove Street, just because most of my fans are GTA fans. But I will tell you, just strictly speaking from a lore perspective, the Saints would beat Grove Street. They would, because the Saints have, especially in the second game, have taken over an entire city, and they had a large private corporation on their side too, and they had the police in their pocket. The Saints had everything going for them in Saints Row 2. So. The Saints Saints from Saints Row 2 will ultimately beat Grove Street families. Yes. On Friday in the drive-thru, there was this smoke show chick in the back of a truck holding a rope, and what do I see? A guy holding on with a swivel chair. What? Wait, wait, what? Wait, I'm confused. What? I'm lost for words. No, Katos. The Thompson is a great submachine gun. I'm just saying that in a combat situation, the MP40 probably will be better. The Thompson has a lot of kick to it. It does. And I think Thompson magazines are like 20 rounds, where MP40 mags are 32. Oh, okay. Okay, Katos. What's your thoughts on the grease gun? Grease gun? Grease gun was basically the American attempt at an MP40. That's pretty much what it was. And what a lot of people don't know is that the MP40 was such a great submachine gun, it was such a good one, that 3 armies made copies of the MP40, their own versions of it. The Soviets made the PPSH-43, which is, it's a PPSH-41 with a little bit longer of a barrel and a foldable stock. So they don't have, like, the wooden stock. It was a way to cut costs and, you know, make more SMGs. The British made the Sten based on the MP40, which is the Sten is the cheapest submachine gun of World War II. The Americans made the grease gun based on the MP40. So literally 3 armies made 3 guns based on the MP40. So MP40 was a really good submachine gun. Pro, what's your opinion of Zelensky? I'm not gonna get into politics. I don't want to discuss those world affairs and all that other stuff. I tend to stay away from that. Yeah, when did Liberty City Stories come out? It came out in October, right? How corrupt was the United States in the 1800s? Well, it depends where, exactly. Some places had more corruption than others. How corrupt was the United States in the 1800s? Just as corrupt as pretty much every single other country back then. A lot of corruption. A lot of countries had corruption back then. But one of the most corrupt places in... Do you know what one of the most corrupt places in the 1800s in America was? My hometown, New York, where I'm from. Was one of the most corrupt places. You had a guy named Boss Tweed. Boss Tweed was so corrupt. He was a politician. He stole, I think, like hundreds of millions of dollars. That's how much he stole in equivalent in today's money. And he fled to Cuba. That was it. So it was, he was, and this is before Cuba was a communist country. This was like in the 1800s. But he was, one of the, probably the most corrupt politician in New York's history. No, Ryan. No, I'm not on Instagram, Jake. What does corrupt mean? basic definition of corruption. Lying and deceiving. Engaging in trickery, lying, and deceiving for money from a position of power. Probably that's what I would say it. Some form of deceiving, trickery, profiting from a position of power. That's probably what I would put corruption as. Let me actually look up what the definition of corruption is. Let me see if my definition was actually pretty close, but that's corruption definition. Let's see what dishonest or fraudulent conducted by those in power. Yeah, I was pretty right with my definition. Yeah, I like a lot of the guns in Max Payne 3. I think my favorite handguns in Max Payne 3 was the 8-shot revolver. Did I consider your VP offer from last stream, Bill Clinton? Wait, is this like a pickup truck, Blinded Eagle? Are you watching Invincible on Prime Video? No, what is that? Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Oh, and speaking of which, Gunner, when I do my Black Ops 1 playthrough, I think you'll like it a lot. I will speak a lot in Vietnam's history during that playthrough. And I'll also show, like, pictures and articles similar to my World at War playthrough. Do you think the AUP and Max Payne 3 are trained combatants? Of course, yeah. They definitely have training. It's easy to learn how a true economy and a government operates when you learn about natural law ethics, and this was taught from both ancient Israel and the founding fathers of the United States. Economy and government operates, natural law ethics. What do you mean by that? Can you explain a little bit more, Vincent? There was a TV show that there was a TV show that I put in like my catalog of shows that I want to watch. I'm gonna watch it later this month. The TV show that I'm gonna watch, I forget the name of the show. It's a crime show though. It's a new show. The guy who plays Lord Malvo in Fargo, he plays in it, and the show is, he works for, like, an oil company, in Texas, and then he, like, deals with the cartel, you know, stuff like that. He's, like, an oil executive in Texas. That's the name, I forget the name of the show, but I'm gonna watch that one. That one I'm gonna put in my back catalog of shows I gotta watch. I forget the name of it. Landman, is that it? Landman? What historical year and place would you like to see a video game set in that hasn't been covered? Easy. Korean War. I would like to see a shooter actually set during the Korean War. Please turn the volume. Wait, what about... Is my volume too loud? Landman, yeah. I gotta watch that one. Whenever I see that actor, I just think of Lorne Malvo. I think of Fargo, because he's known as being Lorne Malvo. Malvo's like one of his most iconic roles. Where in Poland did your parents grow up? The northeastern part. GTA 6 trailer 2 is out. No, it's not. And also, I know that it's not because Rockstar, first of, if you know how I know you're not telling me the truth? The first thing is, if GTA 6 trailer 2 was out, there'd be a ton of people stemming the chat that it's out. And secondly, Rockstar would not post a trailer at this time, and on a Sunday. So it would be, probably on a Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday, and probably sometime midday. Not now. I think the Colombian military and government officials collaborating with the AUC to fight FARC is a bad idea, since it just gives FARC more propaganda. I agree with you. I agree with you 100% on that, Gunner. And the thing is, FARC is just as brutal as AUC. FARC has done horrible, atrocities too. FARC has committed numerous massacres in Colombia as well. But the thing about this is that the FARC would just use the AUC's atrocities as propaganda to further their cause. So they would say, oh, they're in league with the government. And this is the thing is, this is how communists historically gain power like this. Is that communists historically will they will point out corruption and injustice that exists, but what they will do is they will manipulate it in such a way to make it seem like they are the only option. They will basically say, "Oh, we're the only option. If you want, corruption to end, if you want, you want justice, you guys support the communists." That's how communists would operate throughout history. Is they would always find something that's some kind of form of corruption, something that's bad, and they would say, "We are the solution. We are the only ones who can fix it." And that's how they gain power historically. That's actually in your country, Vietnam, where you're from, Gunner. That's actually how the communists gained power in the North. One of the biggest mistakes that the U.S. made in the Vietnam War was supporting France, because France, the U.S. did not start the Vietnam War. France did. France were the ones who started it in the 50s with the Indochina War. But basically, it was like France was trying to colonize and conquer Vietnam again, and what happened was the U.S. Supported France, and that was a stupid thing. The U.S. should not have done that, because France was trying to conquer Vietnam. And what happened was the communists used that as propaganda, and they said, "Oh, look, the Americans are supporting, French imperialism. They're supporting French colonialism," and that's how Ho Chi Minh got a lot of support. He got a lot of people to rally around him doing that. So it was a really bad move. The U.S. should not have supported France in that conflict. That was a really bad idea. They gave too much power to the communists, and then the communists ended up taking over Vietnam, and they ruined Vietnam. And so that was like a really bad miscalculation. If the U.S. had not supported France, the communists could not have made that as a propaganda win. They would not have been able to use that as propaganda. What's wrong, Brandon? What's my favorite map in Hell Let Loose? Probably Kursk. Yeah, probably Kursk is probably my favorite one, or Stalingrad. I wanted to say thanks, Pat. Even after graduating high school, I felt like a failure at life for not going to college. I didn't know what to do to go for in college. It's okay, dude. And, yeah, it's okay, dude. And you didn't need, you don't need to go to college to be successful. Don't believe that when people say that. Have I ever seen a warship in person? Sure I have. I'd think, this person I work with sits on their ass the entire time, and they still have not been fired. My boss knows this. They do this every day, but nothing gets done. Is your boss, like, friendly with this person? Does your boss have some contact with this person? That might be the reason. Yeah, I heard about Skype getting shut down. My boss is too nice, that's the problem. Ooh, that's there. You want to know how to deal with the situation? You want my advice, Own Titan? You're telling me you got a really bad employee, you got a really bad coworker, that's not doing their work, nothing gets done. Now let me ask you this. Do you have to do more work because of that coworker is not doing their job? Like, does more work fall on top of you because that coworker is not doing their job? Is that how it works? Natural law is universal moral code that's not based on culture or human laws. Is morality that already applies to all humans, in which we're born to distinguish what's morally right or wrong, right from wrong. Yeah, it's like, you know, there are so many different cultures in countries around the world. And while they might have disagreements on some things, virtually, you know, pretty much every single culture on the planet, you know, believes, you know, stealing is wrong, murder is wrong, you know, harassment is wrong. So, you know, these are things that people are born with, regardless of, you know, where you're from. Is, you know, there are things that people are just born with a sense of morality. They know, you know, right from wrong. They know what's acceptable, what's not. I missed a super chat. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, did you know that, hey Patrick, I'm sorry I didn't see your super chat earlier. Did I know what car Faustin Mafia uses in GTA 4? I thought of putting Faustin Customs license plate on Uranus Lost Speed in GTA Online. The Faustin Mafia, they use the Sentinels. I'm pretty sure it's a Sentinel in GTA 4. I'm pretty sure that's the car that they use. Thank you, Patrick, not Packy. I do have to do extra work. I work extra hard to make up for this person's slack. The facility I work at had multiple complaints about him. Here's what you do, Own Titan. This is what I suggest you do. Because if this person is not, like, affecting your workload, normally I would say just ignore him. But because he's being lazy and you have more work to do because of him, then at that point, I'm assuming you've tried to talk to the guy, also. But he's not listening. If that's the case, the best option at that point is to talk to your boss. And when I say talk to your boss, I mean get a bunch of your friends together, a bunch of the other coworkers involved. And you basically, you talk to your coworkers before you talk to your boss and say, listen, it's not fair that, you know, we have to do extra work because this guy's not, you know, is slacking off, he's not working, and we have to do extra because of him. All of you guys get together, talk to the boss, go to the boss and tell him, you know, boss, it's either us or him. We're getting pissed at this point. It's like, we're hard workers, we're loyal to you, we're loyal to the company, and we're having to do extra work because this guy's not, doing his job. He's slacking off, he's taking advantage of the situation. You have to do something about him or we're going to be really unhappy. That's pretty much what you do at that point. I wouldn't say don't threaten to quit, I wouldn't say do that, but basically tell him that, you know, we're at our limits, and we're basically pissed, and it's not fair to us. And don't think that it's snitching. It's not snitching, because you should not have to do extra work because this guy is not basically pulling his weight. So that's what I'll say about it. What does it mean in Florida when the Americans say the further south you go, the more north it gets? That's a good question. It basically means that Florida is really like two states, when you think about it. North Florida is very southern, whereas South Florida is pretty different. South Florida is mostly like resorts, you know, beaches, you know, large cities, towns on the water. North Florida is more rural, you know, farms, you know, small towns, countryside. North Florida is very similar to Georgia. If you've been to Georgia before, North Florida is very similar to Georgia. So that's why a lot of North Floridians have like southern like accents. Like they have accents like they're from the deep south. A lot of people from like southern Florida, like Miami, they don't really have that southern accent. So that's what that basically means. Grizzlies is Wyoming. Is the Grizzlies Wyoming? I thought that it was Montana. How do you know it's Wyoming? Well, where I basically lived, Long Island, people considered Long Island like a different state, too. They didn't consider Long Island like part of New York, even though it is. When I was a kid, when I was like in middle school, there was like talks to like make Long Island like a separate state, and most people in my town supported it, but nothing ever came of it. Is the stream cutting out again? Is it doing it again, guys? Oh man, I'm really sorry. Guys, I'm really sorry about that. I'm really sorry. I'm gonna check my OBS settings, and I don't have mid-roll ads on. I don't have those on. The reason that you're seeing ads pop up is because when you refresh the page, it sees it as you starting up the video again. I only have one ad at the start, so I don't do mid-roll ads. So I'm sorry about that. I'm gonna check my OBS settings after the stream today, make sure this doesn't happen, because we're gonna do another stream on Wednesday. When we're gonna stream the GTA update on Wednesday. Tuesday I'll have videos on the GTA update. Wednesday we'll stream it. So I will have I'll have that, but I'm gonna make sure this doesn't happen on Wednesday's stream. So I'm sorry about this. Is Maine a good state to live in? It depends. It depends what you like. I go to Maine every year. So, I visit my friend every year in Maine. One of my best friends I grew up with, he invites me every year, so I go visit him once a year. My friend lives in Maine, he lives in the very, very deep woods of Maine. He doesn't live in, like, a cabin, he lives in a home, but it is very, like, deep woods. Like, it is the most wooded place I've ever seen in my life, is where he lives. Very deep in the woods, and literally the nearest highway from where he is, it's like 50 miles away. It is literally that. It's like you have to take a bunch of these like back roads, and then the back roads they eventually turn into like regular roads, and then eventually you get into like this bigger road that goes through the countryside, and then eventually that leads you to the highway. But if you like that type of environment, you like a very wooded area, then you'll like it. If you like very small towns in the woods, Maine is a very cold state. Also, keep that in mind too. But if the cold doesn't bother you, that's fine too. It's a very beautiful state. A lot of nature to it. About it. The reason my friend moved there is because he absolutely hates the city. He grew up in New York with me, so we both grew up in the city. We're New Yorkers. But he absolutely hates the city. He wanted to get away from the city. He wanted to go to like a very rural wooded place. He's also a hunter. He's a state trooper right now, so he likes living where he lives there. Or no, he's a sheriff's deputy right now. He got promoted. He got a position as sheriff's deputy. That's what he does now. But he likes it there. Yeah, I can help you, Brandon. I live on Long Island, and so many younger folks from the city act like Long Island isn't part of New York. Well, that's the thing about Long Island that's why when I was younger, like 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, there was like all these talks to make Long Island like a separate state, so it wasn't part of New York, so it'd just be the state of Long Island. But it never happened. But if there was a referendum like that, most people on Long Island, I probably would vote to become a different state than New York. Because a lot of Long Islanders, they have their issues with New York City. that a lot of New York City's policies affect them directly, and they don't think that it's fair. They don't think that they're fairly represented. So that's why that's why a lot of people have supported that. But it's like I said, I don't know what ended up happening to it. It was like a campaign. Like when I was in high school, it was like a campaign to make Long Island like a separate state. But then it died down, and nobody ever talks about it anymore now. Hey everyone in Pro, happy Sunday. Do you have any lore videos for Yakuza 0? Also, who is my favorite side character? For me, it was Lee. Yeah, I would say Lee was probably my favorite side character. And the thing is, when you first meet Lee, you think he's this scary bad guy, but he's actually a big guy with a good heart. He has a dark past, but he was probably a good guy at heart. And I felt really bad for Lee. And like they never brought up Lee again. Like Lee wasn't brought up again. So like it was like after that, like only Makoto made only one comment about him, and that was it. He was never brought up again. So it was he had the only thing I'll say about Lee is at least he went out quick. He had the quickest death out of all the characters in the Yakuza series, or Yakuza 0, I should say at least. But that was it was messed up what happened. Yeah, I know you do, Brandon. Thank you, George. Leaks a 14-page document leaked of Manhunt 1? No, I didn't hear about this. Well, yeah, and I will tell you, should Long Island be its own state? Yeah, I think so too. I think it could work as its own state. And the reason it's not fair to Long Islanders because New York is a much more expensive place to live than Long Island. Long Island is a pretty expensive place, but one of the reasons that Long Island has gotten so expensive over the years is to pay for New York City stuff. Like, because New York City needs that tax revenue. And the thing is, that's one of the reasons the property taxes in Long Island are really high. If you live in Nassau County specifically, your property taxes are probably, astronomically high. My mom and dad, they live in a small middle-class house that was built in the 1950s. And that house, they pay an $18,000 property tax on that house. $18,000 a year property tax. Now, you'd think my parents are living in a mansion or a palace or something like that. No, this is a 4-bedroom middle-class home that was built in the 1950s. And that's ridiculous. And if Long Island was its own state, probably would have a lot less property taxes. Probably a lot less taxes than New York. So yeah, I think it would be a good idea, but it's probably never going to happen.
Good business. Damn good business. There's your piece of silver.
Who's more corrupt, Leon McCaffrey or Francis McCreary? Francis probably, yeah. Francis does a lot more. Does a lot more worse stuff. Oh, $2,500 is cheap compared to New York's property taxes. Yeah, that's yeah. My mom though, she's getting the hell out of New York when she retires. My mom is retiring next year, next fall. So the fall 2026. No, not this fall. The fall after this one. So 2026 fall is when she's retiring, and she wants to get the hell out of New York. She wants to move to a much cheaper place, and that property tax is gonna destroy her. That $18,000 property tax is gonna destroy her when she's retired. So she does not want to live there. She wants to sell her house and sell the house with my dad and move somewhere. They're gonna move to Nevada. So that's where my parents are gonna move to. He knew that Majima was sent to kill Makoto, and he helps her, but in the end, it gets him killed. Yeah, I guess kind of ironic, too. And the thing is though, have you noticed that there's like a common trend in Yakuza 0? When you start really liking the characters, they die. So it's like when you started really liking Lee, he gets killed off. When you started liking Nishikiyama, he got killed off. When you started liking even Sagawa, who was a scumbag, when you started liking him, he gets killed off. So it's like all the characters that you like, they start getting killed off. Well, Tachibana, we liked him more than the other characters. Nishitani, right? Not Nishiki. I'm sorry. Nishiki is Kiryu's friend. I'm sorry. I'm getting mixed up. Nishitani. That's his name. Their names are similar. The hardest choices require the strongest will. Stanos 2018. A random MCU quote just because. Thank you, Raccoon, for the super chat. What, you mean his fate gunner? Actually played a little bit of poker here. Oh, was she pissed, Blinded Eagle? You have a PS2? Yes, I do. What do you eat on an average day? My food is all over the place. One day I'll have burgers. Another day I'll, cook some chicken cutlets. One day I'll have steak. But when I get steak, I don't buy, like, the expensive stuff. Just something from the supermarket. So it's like, there's literally all kinds of different food I eat. Like, my food is just all over the place. Is property tax high in your state? Where I live, in the Midwest, no. The thing is, though, is that Midwesterners here where I live, they're complaining about the property taxes, which, yes, I think the property taxes should be even lower than they are, but they don't know what New York property taxes are like. That's something completely different. Yeah. Do I eat breakfast? Of course. What is the difference to expensive steaks? Pretty much nothing. I will tell you something. I've had really expensive steak before, like steaks that they make in like restaurants in Manhattan, and I've had like steaks from the supermarket, and there's no difference. Like, I don't know. I'm not a chef, so I can't tell you exactly, but I tasted virtually no difference. And those really expensive steaks that I had, I didn't even pay for them. How I got them was for my mom's job. Because my mom, she's a cleaner in Manhattan, and she cleans, like, CEOs' offices. So she knows, like, these multimillionaires, like, the head of these companies. She cleans their offices. And what happens is, the CEOs oftentimes have, like, company meetings, and they order food for these company meetings. And a lot of times the CEOs, they order way too much than they need, and then what they do is they have leftovers. And so they have, like, leftovers, all this food. And what my mom is supposed to throw that out, but she ends up bringing the food home. And so, I've had, like, expensive sushi, I've had, like, expensive, like, steak, what all these rich people eat. And to me, there was, like, no difference. And I ate one of their steaks once, and I was like, this is what rich people eat? It's like, why do they spend so much money on this? It's like I could get this in the supermarket and cook this. So there's, like, I personally, I think it's more like a title thing. It's like, oh, we ordered from a fancy restaurant. That's pretty much what it's like. But I don't get it personally. The most insane food that my mom has brought home, the most insane, most ridiculous one that I've seen, is she brought home once. It was, like, insane. she brought home like 10 boxes of large pizza that was unopened. Like, it was like the most amount of pizza that I've ever seen in my life, that I had to, like, I ate nothing but pizza for like an entire month. And there was like different flavors of pizza, so I didn't eat the exact same pizza every time. But basically, the reason that my mom brought home like so many boxes of pizza is because the stupid CEOs, they ordered pizza for their company meeting, and then the company meeting got canceled. So nobody even ate the pizzas. And do you know what they were gonna do? They told my mom to throw it out, like warm pizza. Just throw it out. And those 10 pizza boxes that my mom brought home, that wasn't even all of them. There was like other workers, other cleaners took also pizza boxes themselves, so it was even more of that. So these rich people, they don't even understand the value of food. Like, they just order all this expensive food and then throw it away like it's nothing. That's what I say is the really rich people are like that. And my mom isn't even supposed to take that food. If they caught her taking that food, they'd fire her. But my mom knows where all the cameras are, and she sneaks the food out. That's basically how. So the food is gonna get thrown out, so it's not stealing. It's gonna get tossed in the garbage. But that's basically it. So it's yeah, that all the rich people, they don't know the value of food, and they order all this food, and it kind of pisses me off because there's people in you know, starving in other countries, and yet, you know, these rich people, they just basically throw away food like it's nothing. Everyone knows this person doesn't do their jobs. The boss has been spoken to several times about this person. Well, you gotta tell your boss straight up, this is not fair to us, and tell your boss he's gonna start losing good employees if he doesn't do something about this. Or what you can do is, and this might be a bit risky, Own Titan. I don't want to get you fired. But if I was in your position, do you know what I would do? I would basically only do what I'm supposed to do, and I would not do any extra work. So, like, that employee that's slacking off, you should not have to do his work because he's not doing his job. And if your boss complains, say, I'm not doing his work. That's just that. So I don't want to get you in trouble with your boss, but that's personally what I would do. I don't know if you should follow my advice, but I'm just telling you what I would do. Is I would just basically say, I'm not doing his work. I'm only doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm not gonna, do extra work because somebody's not, doing their job. So that's what I'll say about it. My favorite Yakuza 0 minigame? Maybe the bowling? Yeah, I know about that, Gunner. Patrick, random question. How do you like your steak cooked? Oh, I'm not a chef. It's the, I don't like it bloody. So when it's, like, bloody, what's that called? I don't like it. I like the other one. The other, I don't know what it's called. Medium rare or well done. I don't know the titles. I don't eat steak a lot, so I don't know, but I just don't like it when it's bloody and, like, stuff like that. I don't like it like that. So what's the other one? The one that's not bloody? What is that one called? Power's back up, and I finished with Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare Original. By the way, did I play Call of Duty Advanced Warfare and Infinite Warfare? Yes, yes, I did, Mars. Well, I played Advanced Warfare, but I didn't play Infinite Warfare, Marsov. Well done, that's what it's called. Okay. The difference the way it's raised. For example, Kobe beef is raised on very specific dates in Kyoto, and only like 300 pounds are shipped to the U.S. a year. Huh. That's very little. Medium rare, medium, and medium well done. I don't know all these I don't know all these terms. Have I played this game before in real life? You mean poker like this? No. I know the game plays, but I don't, Yeah, I know, Bosworth Academy is mentioned in Bully. I know that. Moral good and evil and moral right and wrong are different from regular concepts of good and evil and right and wrong. It's based on logic and reason by not living under legalistic societies. Wait, what? What was my favorite line in Yakuza 0? I'd have to think about that one. Probably when, my favorite line in Yakuza 0 was probably when, Majima, when Majima beat the crap out of Laogui, and then he told Dojima, "Wait your turn." That's what he said. That's probably was my favorite line. I missed your super chat. I'm sorry. Let me see. Thank you, George. Marsoff. Favorite fragrance. Mine is greenish tweed creed. Wait, what do you mean fragrance? You mean like cologne? Thank you, Suspect 13, for the super chat. No, I haven't watched WWE in years. Okay, put in $1 here. It took me a little bit to adjust living in the Midwest, but over time I liked it. I don't really wear any cologne. Maybe only when you go on some kind of special occasion, like to a family event or something like that, but not really, no. Although Zach, I liked it. There was no, I didn't have any complaints about the Midwest. I liked it. It was just like you have to understand where I grew up. It was very urban. So like moving to like the a very much more rural place, it was a very different experience. So I had no complaints. It was just different. It took a little bit of time to adjust to it, but I liked it. What do you think about metal collars the German military police wore? Are you talking about that thing with like the chain and like that big thing, like that big plate thing hanging down? Is that what you're talking about? That thing was stupid, Gunner. Are there any cons on living in the Midwest? No, not really. I can only think of one con for me personally. The only one con I can think of is that when it hits 10 p.m., almost all businesses are closed here in the Midwest. Like pretty much everything is closed. Like the entire town goes into darkness. So like there's nothing really open after 10 p.m. So like you need to do any kind of shopping, you have to do it earlier in the day. That was just it. It's like in New York where I'm from, there was like so many different stores that were open after 10 p.m. But here, there's nothing open after 10 p.m. One of my favorite parts from your playthrough was when Nishiki what Niski and what he said about Yakuza being dumbasses, and you beating Kuze with a motorcycle. Yeah, that was funny. When I threw the motorcycle at him. Well, you'll like the next part of Yakuza that I upload because I literally beat up Mr. Shakedown again. Nice, you've gotten really good at the combat. Thank you, Sherry's site. Okay, let's see here. Hang on. Bet this. Why did he go in with those cards? Okay, there we go. That was really good. Okay. Time to pack this up here. Do I have a favorite historical president? I can tell you what my favorite presidents are, except in the 21st century. The 21st century I'm not going to say, because I don't get involved in modern politics. My favorite president in the 18th century would have to be George Washington. Favorite president in the 19th century would have to be Abraham Lincoln. Favorite president in the 20th century would have to be Teddy Roosevelt.
Getting quick, folks, before I eat all these chops myself.
Oh yeah, it's been 20 years since Avatar: The Last Airbender came out. When is season 2 of that Netflix show coming out? I still have to watch that one. You can crouch and even crawl on the floor. You can go prone in GTA 6? Well, that would be a good thing if you can go prone. One day I might watch the Menace. Okay, I'll see you, meme. No, I didn't see the Reagan film. What is the part you dislike about Assassin's Creed 3 story? Do you have a problem with how the founding fathers were portrayed? No, none of that. I liked Assassin's Creed 3. There wasn't really much I disliked about the story. I think you're thinking of another Assassin's Creed game. Assassin's Creed 3, I didn't really have that many issues with. I actually have one complaint about Assassin's Creed 3. And the one complaint I'll say about Assassin's Creed 3 was it was Charles Lee. That's what I'll say. Charles Lee. Like, it was that got a bit cringe. And it was like, Lee was kind of a bit of an annoying antagonist at the end. That's what I'll say about him. So it was, that's what I'll say. Do you know what my favorite mission in Assassin's Creed 3 is? My favorite mission in Assassin's Creed 3 is not the, it's not even in the main single player. It's the DLC missions. It's the Benedict Arnold, DLC. Anybody ever played a Benedict Arnold DLC? A lot of people missed that one, but Benedict Arnold was the biggest traitor in American history. He was an American general that tried to surrender West Point, and he tried to get George Washington captured by the British, and his plot was exposed. But he is the biggest traitor in American history. There's actually a DLC where Connor has to actually follow him and tail him, and you find out that he's gonna betray George Washington. There's a DLC mission. That one was my favorite one in the game. And I thought Arnold was portrayed pretty accurately in that he was a massive scumbag. And even in that one, Connor had his problems with George Washington, but even Connor really hated Benedict Arnold. Like, he hated him.
Welcome back.
I live in the Midwest.
Hellfire!
Connor didn't do much after finding out George Washington was behind his mother's death. Well, I don't know if they said that George Washington was the one who did it specifically. Him and his troops were there, but it was a bit of a gray area. It was a bit of a gray area. That's what it was. It was a messed up thing. It was a messed up reveal that happened. Sniper Elite Resistance was a decent game. I'm still gonna have that top 10 ways to kill Hitler video coming out. Do you think Ezio was right to spare Rodrigo Borgia? Yeah. Yeah, he probably was. And Rodrigo Borgia kind of gave up. After Ezio spared him, he kind of gave up. He never was really involved in the whole Templar thing again. Well, here's the thing about the tyranny of King Washington. About the tyranny of King Washington, the tyranny of King Washington was actually based on a real life story that people kept saying, because what happened was when here's the thing is, George Washington, even though he wasn't a dictator, he basically had the power of a dictator at the end of the Revolutionary War. Like, George Washington is like the most popular leader in American history. He had like a 95% approval rating, which is absolutely insane. Like, nobody in history has ever come close to his approval rating. It was like 95%, something like that. It was an insanely high approval rating. So he is the most popular leader in American history. And about him is, when the Revolutionary War ended, George Washington pretty much had the power of like a dictator. He wasn't a dictator, but he had power similar to a dictator. If the entire army was loyal to George Washington, and the entire country was loyal to George Washington. So if George Washington basically said, I'm going to go and dissolve Congress right now and take power and be like dictator of America, then he could do that if he wanted to. That's how popular he was. Like, barely anybody would stand in his way. But George Washington, what he did was he voluntarily gave up power. Now, King George called George Washington a scammer. And he said that George Washington, when he wins the war, that he's going to just take over. He's going to be the new king, be dictator of America. But George Washington didn't do that. The second that the war ended, he gave up power, he gave up his commission, and he went back to his farm. He wanted to go back to his farm at Mount Vernon. He did not want to be a soldier. He just wanted to serve his country and basically get through the war. But once the war was ended, he gave up power. And that's one thing that people forget about George Washington. Did George Washington do some bad things? Sure. But ultimately, George Washington's best trait was that he gave up power. That was about him. He was not a greedy, person that just wanted to hold on to power and rule over America. And when George Washington became president, he didn't even want to be president. He didn't want to. He didn't want to do that. But the reason he did that was because he felt his country needed him, and because he was severely pressured to unite the country. He felt that he had to do that. He felt he was that guy who united the country, and he felt he had to do that. So that was ultimately with him. And so that's where that Tyranny of King Washington DLC comes from, is because so many people were saying that George Washington was going to take power and become like a greedy, powerful king. But that's basically where the story comes from, of all the leaders that were mocking George Washington, saying that he's a scammer and that he's going to take power violently. So that's ultimately where the DLC comes from. Do you think Tadeusz Kościuszko should have been in Assassin's Creed 3? Yeah. He was a great guy. And Kościuszko was the Polish founding father. So he was one of the founding fathers was from Poland. He was a really honorable and decent guy. He had a very and also compared to Kościuszko had a very clean record compared to a lot of other founding fathers. Like, Kościuszko was very, very against slavery. Like, he never owned slaves. He was extremely against that. And he was a very rich man too. And he never supported slavery. He was completely against that. So he was a very decent, very honorable guy. He has a bridge named after him in New York. I know, the Kościuszko Bridge. But if you know about Kościuszko, if you know about what ended up happening to him, his last days, it's very sad what he went through. Hey, professional, I'm depressed. Oh, what's wrong, dude? I hope everything's okay. Filia Tardo is Salvatore. It's the same actor, yeah. Would I call the British evil in the Revolutionary War? The government? Yeah. Because the Americans were treated like second-class citizens. The king, that entire war was started by the entire Revolutionary War could have been prevented, but it was basically started by King George and also by the British Prime Minister. Damn, what was his name? I forget the guy. I forget the guy's name. I'd have to look him up. But the British Frost, I think Frost was his name. Frost. Let me just see if I was right. British Prime Minister during Revolutionary War. Was it? Let's see here. Who was it? No, it was Frederick North, I think. Was it or Frederick North? That's who it was. Okay, I was thinking of a different guy here. But basically about him, he was the guy who had pushed really had pushed through with the Revolutionary War. North was his name. Yeah, I thought his name was Frost for some reason. But about that is that the Revolutionary War could have been completely avoided. And the U.S. actually sent the Olive Branch Petition to King George, and the Olive Branch Petition was actually a way to avoid the war. It was a bunch of American forefathers had basically put together a petition asking him for representation from the colonies, that the colonies would be able to have their representation in the British Parliament. And basically Lord North and, King George were like, nope, not going to do that. And King George actually responded very badly. He said that anybody who supports this petition is a traitor and deserves to get hanged. And so, pretty much think about that. If King George and Lord North had not been so power-hungry and had just agreed to those demands and had given, the Founding Fathers, voice in the British Parliament, that entire war could have been avoided, and everybody who had died in that would have still been alive. So there was everybody who died at that point was the fault of King George because of just unwilling to negotiate. And here's the thing about this. One thing that a lot of people don't know is that at the very end of the Revolutionary War, this is like 1781 or 1782. This was right after the Siege of Yorktown, where after the Siege of Yorktown, that war was over. Like, it was pretty much over. Like, Britain had no chance of winning that war. Spain declared war on Britain. France declared war on Britain. The Dutch declared war on Britain. So Britain was screwed. They had no way of keeping America. It was pretty much at that point it was over. They were gonna lose the war. But what happened was King George was so desperate to hold on to America, he actually sent a delegation to America, and that delegation actually met with Congress. And the British delegation agreed to all the demands that the forefathers wanted. Having representation in Parliament, being treated as British citizens, because the Americans were never treated as British citizens. So they were treated as the colonists. So King George pretty much agreed to all the demands in the Olive Branch Petition, which he called earlier traitors, years before that. But he only started agreeing to the demands when he started losing the war, and he knew that it was hopeless at that point. And do you know what the forefathers said? The forefathers said, get the F out of here. We don't want to talk to you. The reason, what the forefathers wanted is we wanted full independence. And the forefathers would have agreed to those demands years beforehand. But they've been fighting a war for years, and so many Americans had died at that point, and we were winning the war. We were going to win. So we're going to want the full package. We're going to want independence. So that's ultimately is if King George wanted to keep America, he should have thought about that earlier. But yeah, so if you're asking me, was King George evil? I'd say yeah, because everybody that had died in that conflict could have been completely avoided if the king had just given the 13 colonies representation in Parliament. So everybody died because a king just wanted to have some extra power. Pretty much that. Well, I hope everything's okay, Menace, and you ever need, you can talk to me. If you ever... If you need anybody to talk to, you can always talk to me. Did any British switch sides? Oh, a lot of British people switch sides. Yes. There was a lot of people that were born in Britain that actually defected to the U.S. So there was a lot, even like British soldiers who had defected to the U.S. during the Revolutionary War. So there was a lot of defections. It did happen. So we hear a lot in history. We hear about the loyalists, the Americans who were loyal to King George. We don't really hear about the British who actually switched the American side. That did happen a bit too. But do you know what who actually switched sides a lot, defected a lot to the Americans? The Hessians, the Germans. So there was a lot of Germans that actually they were on the British side originally. They defected to the U.S. and they switched sides to the U.S. And so if you are if you're an American and you have German ancestry, and you know that your ancestors were in America since the Revolution, you know, been in America for more than 200 years, chances are your ancestor is probably one of the Hessian soldiers that had actually defected to the U.S. During the Revolutionary War. That is, that's a huge possibility. So a lot of, and the reason that so many Germans had defected to the U.S. from Britain is because the Hessians were not, the Hessians weren't mercenaries. A lot of people think that they were mercenaries, but the Hessians themselves were not mercenaries. The Hessian leaders, the aristocrats that ran the Hessians, that commanded the Hessians, they were the mercenaries. Their commanders were mercenaries. The Hessians themselves, the soldiers, were not mercenaries. They weren't paid mercenary wages. They are basically soldiers that were basically forced to work for the lord. It was their lord, their aristocrat. They had to go and fight for them. So they had to fight for like a really rich guy that's basically selling you out as mercenaries. And so they really didn't have loyalty to the aristocrats that were leading them. And they basically ended up switching sides to the American side. That's ultimately the backstory with the Hessians. That's why so many of them defected to the U.S. One of my history teachers was a German ancestry, and his ancestors were from Hessia. That's really interesting that you can trace your ancestry that far back, too. Well, here's the thing. The UN peacekeepers tried their best in a lot of situations, but the UN itself was useless. So the peacekeepers, I wouldn't blame the peacekeepers for like because the UN peacekeepers, they failed to prevent violence in Yugoslavia. You know, during the Yugoslavian wars, they failed to prevent violence in Rwanda. At the same time too. So the UN UN peacekeepers failed in East Timor as well. So there have been situations where they've been. So I don't necessarily blame the soldiers. The soldiers did their best, but it was the leadership that was at fault in those situations. The UN leadership really messed up. Okay, I'll see you, Menace. I did have an ancestor that crossed the Delaware. That is very, that's amazing. That's actually interesting. You know what you should do, Chase? You should go on YouTube. There's a movie that you can watch on YouTube called The Crossing. It's actually a free movie you can watch, and it's a movie about George Washington crossing the Delaware on Christmas Day. You should actually check that one out. You would like it. World War I could have been avoided if you didn't have a bunch of greedy colonial empires. Everybody wanted more land, they wanted more colonies, and everybody was pretty much at fault in World War I. It was like Germany, Britain, France, Russia, Austria-Hungary, you know, Italy, Ottoman Empire. All of them were aggressors in World War I. So in World War I, there really wasn't any good guys. They were all bad guys in World War I. They were all greedy, and they just wanted, to steal land from each other. That's ultimately it. There was a few countries that weren't bad in World War I. Like Serbia was defending itself, for example, in World War I, so they didn't really do that much bad as like compared to other countries. Belgium was largely defending itself too. It was I'm trying to think of any other countries that weren't really bad in World War I. But World War I, most of the countries were bad. That's what I'll say about it.
There's just something so manly about you.
You ain't so bad yourself.
Well,
Why did the America join late at World War I? Well, because most Americans didn't want to get involved in a European war. It was a bunch of, empires and monarchies that were fighting each other, and we didn't want to get involved in it.
You ain't lying.
What if the Allies didn't help Germany rebuild its economy after World War II? Then Germany would have fallen to communism. All of Germany. Did any Dutch allied with the Americans during the Revolutionary War? The Dutch were our allies during the Revolutionary War. They were our friends. The Dutch didn't really help us in battles, but they did help us in a really important thing, financing. The Dutch financed us. Like, they gave us a lot of... And the Dutch gave us loans, and their loans were very generous. Like, they did not want a lot of interest back. So they were pretty generous in their loans. So the Netherlands was a true friend to America when it first formed as a country. It was they supported our cause, and they were decent to us. Do you think the most successful UN intervention was the Korean War? Yes. The Korean War was the UN's greatest victory. Okay, it's crazy how far back you can trace your ancestors. My ancestors on my father's side, they are from Central Asia, and they came from, my ancestors, do you know how they actually came into Poland? They came into Poland during the Mongolian conquest. So that's where my ancestors actually come from on my father's side. So if I traced, like, my ancestry back, like, you know, over, like, you know, 1,000 years, you know, back, it would be, like, towards, like, Mongolia. That's where my father's side. My dad told me that we're related to Genghis Khan, but I don't know if that's true. I would have to do a DNA test one day to see that. But like it's because like Genghis Khan has like 20 million people related to him today. He had like more kids than anybody in history. But that's my dad might just be joking, but that's what he said. Why hasn't Korea reunited like Germany did in 1990? Here's one thing I'll tell you about Korea. You cannot compare Korea to Germany. It's a very different situation. People compare like East Germany and West Germany to like North and South Korea. It is very, very, very different. And one of the reasons that it's so different is that there is two main differences. The first main difference is that people in East Germany, while they didn't have, you know, great lives, they had way better lives than the North Koreans. So if you compare like the average life in East Germany compared to the average life in North Korea, the East Germans had way better living standards than the North Koreans did. And the thing is, life in East Germany was not easy. It was bad. So I'm not defending it. What I'm saying is that people in East Germany did not starve to death. You did not have like thousands of people in East Germany starve to death. So people in East Germany had food. They had to eat. In North Korea, they didn't have any food. People would just, you know, starve to death. They would die. So you didn't have those mass famines in East Germany that you did in North Korea. And the second thing is that East Germans knew that West Germany was a better place to live. They knew that. How did they know that? Because there was so much stuff smuggled in. There was like West German movies smuggled into East Germany. They were able to see like magazines from West Germany. They were even able to see West Germany from the border. Like if you lived in East Berlin, you were able to see West Berlin. It was like, you know, a shining metropolis compared to East Germany, who had like, you know, broken down, run down buildings. So people in East Germany knew that life in West Germany was better. They knew that. People in North Korea don't know that life is better in South Korea. Most people don't. Like, if you watch videos of North Korean defectors, they'll say that when people are crying over Kim Jong-il's death, most of the crying is real. So it's like, so people say, oh, they're faking the crying. Most of the crying was real. So people are so brainwashed in North Korea, they're isolated. They don't know what life is truly like in South Korea. And the thing about that is that North Koreans, a lot of them believe that South Koreans are evil. They believe that South Koreans are evil. They believe that Americans are evil. They believe that like Kim Jong-un is like the greatest leader in the world, that nobody, you know, measures in his, you know, intelligence and strength and, you know, all that stuff. And they're lucky to have a leader like Kim Jong-un. And so North Korea and South Korea are never going to unify. It's just not going to happen. The Kim family is never going to give up, and there will never be a coup in North Korea. It's not going to happen. The reason that there hasn't been a coup in North Korea, the reason you never, a bunch of North Korean generals have never got together and like, you know, said, you know, we're going to get rid of Kim Jong-un and make North Korea better. The reason there's no coups in North Korea is because the punishment is so severe. If you go against a leader, you're not just going to die. You're going to die a very, very slow death. And on top of that, it's your entire family is going to be killed. If you go against a leader, your entire family is going to be killed. So that's why there definitely are generals in North Korea that have thought about that. They probably thought about that. Let's get rid of Kim Jong Un, but the risk is just so great. Your entire family would get killed, and that nobody does it. And on top of that, Kim Jong Un has purged the leadership in North Korea. He's purged it. The only person who could have overthrown Kim Jong Un is his uncle. His uncle, because his uncle is older than him. And Kim Jong Un has his uncle executed. And his uncle didn't even do anything wrong. His uncle didn't even go against him. But he had his uncle executed because he was the only person that could actually go against him. And so that was and the really crazy thing, when he had his uncle executed, he had his uncle executed with anti-aircraft guns. That's how he had his uncle executed. So his uncle was ripped apart. There's nothing left of him. So that's what I'll say about it, is that, you know, people say America is this evil, horrible place. Is America a perfect country? No, we've made mistakes, but thank God that I grew up in a country like America, not North Korea. That's why I'm just so grateful to this country. I know we're not perfect. I know there's things we can do better at, but that's why I'm just happy as somebody to be born in a place like America and not be born in, you know, a hell like North Korea. So that's what I'll say about it, is that North Korea and South Korea will never reunite. It's just never going to happen. And there's not going to be a coup in North Korea. It's just not going to happen. The only way that North and South Korea could ever unite is through war. That's the only way. If the Kim family was actually taken out through war, that's the only way. But other than that, they will never unify. It's not going to happen where, like, the wall is going to, you know, the border is going to come down the DMZ in North and South Korea, and they're all going to unify. It's not going to happen. It's not. The other thing I'll say about that is that the difference is that most West Germans wanted to unify with East Germany. But most South Koreans don't want to unify with North Koreans. They don't. And you'd probably think, why wouldn't South Koreans want to unify with North Koreans? The reason is because living standards in East Germany and West Germany, West Germans made on average like 2 or 3 times more money than East Germans. So even though there was a big difference, like 2 or 3 times more, it wasn't that significant. It was like something that over time could be improved. And East Germans still make the least amount of money. West Germans make the most amount of money. Even, you know, it's been 30 years later, East Germans still make the least amount of money compared to West Germans. But if you compare North and South Korea, it's very different. So while the average East German, the average West German made like 2 or 3 times more than the average, East German, the average South Korean makes probably 20 times, 20 or maybe even 30 times more than the average North Korean. 20 or 30 times more. Now compare that to East Germany, West Germany, where the average West German made like 2 or 3 times more. That is not even comparable. So like in North Korea, you have absolute poverty where people are starving to death, dying in the streets. And then in South Korea, you have, a shining metropolis, one of the highest living standards in the world. So it's like it's not comparable, and that's the reason that so many South Koreans don't want to unify with North Korea is because North Korea makes such less money. It's so poor compared to South Korea, and if South Korea unified with North Korea, South Korea would have to fix all of North Korea's infrastructure. They would have to build them new cities, new bridges, new train tracks, new hospitals, everything. South Korea, it could bankrupt South Korea. It could bankrupt them. It really could, having to do all that. And not only that, they would have a flood of tons of workers. So what would happen is, if you found out that you could make 20 or 30 times more money in South Korea, all of North Korea would come down to South Korea. So imagine that, there's 20 million people in North Korea, 20 million people would rush towards the border coming into South Korea. And that would cause massive economic problems if you have that many poor people coming into your country at once. And you can't really blame the North Koreans at the same time too for wanting to come to South Korea because they want better lives. So I don't blame them. But if you had all of North Korea, if they had 20 million really poor people coming into a country that's fairly rich, that could cause a lot of economic problems at the same time too. So that's why a lot of South Koreans don't want to unify with North Korea, because even if they got it on their terms, even if they took over North Korea, it would have to fix everything, fix all the poverty, fix everything. There's so much stuff to fix that North Korea messed up. So that's what I will say about that. My birthday's in a few minutes. Give me a shout out. Thank you, Isaiah. Thank you for the super chat. Happy birthday, dude. Everyone wish Isaiah a happy birthday. Is this the Krusty Krab? No, this is Patrick. Thank you, Justin Ramos, for sponsoring my channel for half a year. Thanks, dude. Happy birthday, buddy. Okay, guys, I think I'm gonna go here. I'm probably gonna make some dinner because I'm I'm pretty hungry. So I think I'm gonna probably make some dinner here. Have you ever heard about El Mencho? I know who El Mencho is. He's a really evil cartel boss in Mexico. And he even called the police chief, and he threatened the police chief. He told the police chief to stop raiding his drug labs or he's gonna kill him. And the police chief was like, okay, I'm sorry, sir. I'm on your side, sir. You know, I respect you, sir. Like, you know, stuff like that. So, like, he even had the police chief's number on speed dial. So, El Mencho was a pretty scary guy. What time will you stream on Wednesday? I don't know. I'll stream earlier than this though. I'll stream like around the same time as I streamed on Friday. I'll try to stream around that same time. The cartel clown worked for Mencho? Oh man, well that's yeah, I'm not surprised. Mencho was a really messed up person. You know, people like that deserve the death penalty. Okay, favorite music genre? I liked all kinds of music. Okay, guys. So I guess I'm gonna go here. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Thank you everybody who super chatted also and came by the stream and liked the stream. Thank you guys. You guys, it's always a lot of fun talking to you guys, hanging out with you guys. If you guys enjoyed the stream, do drop a like. Tomorrow I will have the first part of Miles Edgeworth Ace Attorney Investigations. I know a lot of people have been requesting that. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys on the next one. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day, guys.